I recently finished Elon Musk's biography by Walter Isaacson. Isaacson spent 2 years with Elon Musk, shadowing him in meetings, conducting interviews, exchanging text messages and emails, and Elon also encouraged many of his close family members and friends and even enemies to speak to Isaacson so that he could complete this book. The result is a book that is very well researched and very well written. And some of the stuff that you learn in there about Elon Musk and his life and his companies is pretty eye-opening. Isaacson also managed to largely keep his own opinions out of the text and just provide the facts, letting the reader form their own opinion as they go through the book. I would highly recommend the book to anyone that wants to learn more about Elon Musk, yes, but also just anyone who wants to learn about business, entrepreneurship, and what it's like to be in a position like Elon Musk is as the richest man in the world. Now, this video is not meant to be a video about Elon Musk himself, but rather about what lessons we can learn from his approach to life and business. And if you're here to learn more about Elon Musk the person, I would highly recommend that you just buy the book and read it yourself because it will be well worth the time and the money. I'll make sure to put a link down in the description for anyone who wants to purchase the book. And just as a disclaimer, it will be an affiliate link. So if you purchase the book using that link, I will receive a small percentage. But if you're planning on reading the book anyways, then it's a great way to support the channel and it doesn't cost you anything extra. All right, but that's enough intro. Let's get into the meat of the video. So one of the most important takeaways from the book is Elon Musk's algorithm. It's a set of different lessons he learned during the Tesla production surges at the Fremont and Nevada factories. And it's pretty safe to say that by correctly following all these guidelines, it pretty much directly resulted in Elon becoming the richest man in the world. And there are 5 steps to the algorithm. Number 1 is to question every requirement. Elon said, "Each requirement should come with the name of the person who made it. You should never accept that a requirement came from a department, such as the legal department or the safety department. You need to know the name of the real person who made that requirement. Then you should question it no matter how smart that person is. Requirements from smart people are the most dangerous because people are less likely to question them. Always do so, even if the requirement came from me. Then make the requirements less dumb." So this would often come up during the times when they were trying to optimize the production process. Elon would be walking along in the factory and looking at particular processes, and if he saw a part of the line that was being held up due to an issue, he'd go over there and try and fix the problem. And he would often ask people why they were doing something, and if they said, "Oh, such and such department told me to," or "This is how we've been doing it the whole time," then he would just drill down and try and figure out exactly who the specific person that made the requirement was, and then get the requirement changed. So the main takeaway here is not to do something just because it's the way it's always been done or because someone told you it's the way you need to do it. Do something because it's the best way to do it. As we move on to step 2, one thing that's important to note here is that it's very important that you follow all 5 steps of the algorithm in order, and you'll find out why in a minute. Step number 2 in the algorithm is delete any part of the process that you can. Elon said you may have to add them back later. In fact, if you do not end up adding back at least 10% of them, then you didn't delete enough. So one good example of this from the book, he was trying to optimize the process and speed up the process of installing solar roofs at Solar City. And so he told the team to use less screws on the roof to see if it could work with less, because then that would make the process go faster. Well, the team tried it and it was not working very well. And so they ended up adding back the screws because it was determined that they were needed to hold the solar panels to the roof. And so when Elon came back and saw the screws and they talked about it, he was not upset that they added back the screws that he told him to remove, because it didn't work without them. Another slightly different example of this is when Elon Musk took over Twitter. He felt like it was overstaffed, and so he laid off about 90% of the workforce, many of which were engineers. He felt like they were doing better things at Tesla with a much smaller team, and so he just didn't think it was necessary to have that many people employed by the company. And there were a few funky things that happened here and there, but the platform never totally broke. And even if it did, Elon would not be that concerned, because he would have followed the algorithm and realized, okay, we deleted too many engineers, we need to hire back some more. So the main takeaway here is to not overcomplicate things, and sometimes you have to tear things down before you can build them back up better. Number 3 is to simplify and optimize. Now, you'll remember that I talked about how important it is to complete the steps in the correct order, and here Elon explains why. This should come after step 2. A common mistake is to simplify and optimize a part or process that should not exist. Number 4 is to accelerate cycle time. Elon says, every process can be speeded up, but only do this after you have followed the first 3 steps. In the Tesla factory, I mistakenly spent a lot of time accelerating processes that I later realized should have been deleted. And then finally, number 5, which is automate. Elon said the following about this step. That comes last. The big mistake in Nevada and at Fremont was that I began by trying to automate every step. We should have waited until all the requirements had been questioned, parts and processes deleted, and the bugs shaken out. So the main takeaway here, as it relates to the last 3 steps, is make sure that you are not spending a lot of time optimizing a certain process if maybe that process shouldn't even exist in the first place. Okay, now moving on to more lessons that we learn aside from the algorithm. This one is pretty closely related to the algorithm, but is not a part of it. Elon believes that engineers and designers should work together. Elon often chooses engineers to lead his teams, and he believes that the engineers and the designers should have their cubicles right by each other so they can collaborate on things together. Oftentimes in other companies, then you have feedback going back and forth between departments, and it takes a while for them to figure things out because they're separate. But when you put them right next to each other, they can go right to each other and talk about why it shouldn't have been designed this way because it doesn't function correctly, or vice versa. Another lesson that we can learn from Elon Musk is to be scrappy. Especially at SpaceX in the beginning days, then he would question the price of just about anything that they had to buy for their rockets. For example, if they contacted a supplier and they said it would cost $2 million to purchase a certain part for a rocket, he would take that information, and if he thought it was way too much, he would go back and find out how much it costs to just get the raw materials, and then just have someone on his team build it at SpaceX. And oftentimes he could save millions of dollars by doing that. So the main takeaway here is to not just settle for something because it's the only way of doing something or everyone else does it this way. Just because someone tells you something costs a certain amount doesn't mean that's true. Look for creative alternatives that can still solve the problem. Another lesson we learn is that Elon Musk is very driven by solving problems and furthering the good of humanity as opposed to just purely making profit. Of course, he wants his businesses to be profitable. That's the whole point of running a business. But he actually, when he was in graduate school and was getting his education and deciding what to do with his life, he decided to start businesses to solve the problems he saw with society because he felt like he would be able to solve them much better himself with his private companies than by becoming a professor or working in government. So with Tesla, he is very passionate about creating a clean energy future and making things down the line be powered almost exclusively by solar energy and electricity. And with SpaceX, his main drive there is to make life multiplanetary because his concern is that if a catastrophic event happens on Earth, then there's the potential that all of human consciousness could be wiped out. However, if we're on multiple planets, that will increase the likelihood of keeping the flame of human consciousness alive. So the main takeaway from this lesson is to not go into business simply because you want to make money. Go into business to solve problems and the money will follow. If you come up with a fantastic new way to solve a problem and it makes people's lives easier, they will pay you for that solution. Elon Musk did not invest hundreds of millions of dollars into his companies because he thought he could get a massive return. He did it because he thought those companies had the potential to create a better future for humanity. Another lesson we learned from Elon Musk is that he slept under his desk all the time. He did this at Tesla during the production surges, and he also did it at Twitter right after the acquisition. Elon would lead these super intense surges where he would demand a lot out of the company, and generally it would be pushed forward by setting some ridiculous timeline that no one thought was realistic or possible, and a lot of times they would not hit his timeline. Sometimes they would, but even if they didn't hit his timeline, they would still complete the project or the process in a much faster period of time than they would have if they just set a realistic timeline. So this maniacal sense of urgency that he possesses is one of the things that helps keep his companies ahead. The main takeaway here is that what you do as a leader has a great effect on the people that you are managing. For example, at a company like Elon Musk is running, then his intense work ethic inspires the employees to work hard with him and for him. And there's just something inspiring about seeing the founder of a company working himself to exhaustion to make the company succeed. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to sleep under your desk like Elon Musk did. I think he probably takes things to the extreme, and he would admit that to you if you asked him about it, but you get the general idea. Another important lesson is to not let the critics get to you. Elon Musk has plenty of critics for all the businesses that he runs. Part of that is just due to the size of his wealth and fame. Anytime you're the richest man in the world and you're a celebrity on the scale that he is, then you're going to have both people who love you and people who hate you. It's just what happens. But it also happens because of the way he acts and the way he behaves. He tends to go against the grain, and he genuinely does not care what people say about him. And it reminds me of a great quote from Jeff Bezos, who said, "If you absolutely cannot tolerate critics, don't do anything new or interesting." Cybertruck is a great example of this because the design is so different. then it can throw people off when they first see it. And a lot of people, when they first saw the design, had the thought, why would anyone buy this? But people are buying it and will continue to buy it. Even just the idea of an electric car has a lot of critics, but he has proved those critics wrong by having thick skin and sticking to what he believes in. So the main takeaway here is to not let the critics get to your head. What is the absolute worst thing that could happen? That the critics are right? And even if they are, who cares? You don't know if something is a good idea until you try it. So don't let people discourage you from trying new things because you don't know if you don't try. All right, so that is the end of the lessons that I learned from reading Elon Musk's biography. I'm sure there are more lessons I could have pulled out of there. The book is very well written, very well done, and there's much more that we can learn from it. However, these are just the points that I wanted to talk about in this video. Elon Musk is someone that I have always looked up to and taken a lot of inspiration from, and I think there's a lot we can learn from him. That being said, Elon Musk is not necessarily someone I want to be like. I think learning from someone and being like someone are two very different things. I don't always like the way that he treats other people, and I don't agree with everything that he says, but regardless of that, I still think there's a lot we can learn from him. This is a different video than I usually post. Let me know if you like this style of video. Do you want to hear more about the books I'm reading? If you do, please let me know down in the comment section. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video, as that really does help me out. And I will see you guys in the next video.